I'm really, really happy to announce our panel for our movement part of the program. And as you know, we all have the ability to improve the prognosis of Parkinson's disease and be on the least amount of medications possible if you do that legwork and making sure that you stay active. I always tell my patients when I especially initially diagnose that there is kind of a fork in the road. The people who do the best are the ones who are moving regularly versus the people who say to me, look, I've never exercised before and you're not gonna make me. Well, they're not gonna have as good of a prognosis, and this really is a team effort. So I encourage all of you to, whether it's one-on-one prescribed physical therapy to get you up to snuff and then converge into a community program, or if it is something that you're looking for a program, hopefully you see what there is to offer today, because there is a great variety. And the best movement and the best exercise is the one you will do, right? So if I tell you that, water aerobics is it, and that's the one that's gonna get you in shape, but you don't like to swim and you don't wanna get in your swimsuit, you're probably not gonna do it. So I think today you're probably gonna walk out of here with at least something that you can connect with that you feel like you can do. So I'm gonna get at it here. I do regret to tell you that John Cullen was set up to speak today, but he was unfortunately unable to make it. He has many of you may have seen it in the community, the program, It's Just Parkinson's. If you haven't seen it, you can go find his documentary on www.itsjustparkinsons.com. Our first speaker today is Joy Cochran. Joy is a doctor of physical therapy, the clinical evidence specialist for urban polling. She's right up my alley. She's the owner of Joy Explorations. Joy's vision is to empower clients, specifically adults with neurologic conditions and older adults, to play, explore movement, and go on adventures and promote a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life. She is credentialed as a balance and falls professional and certified exercise expert for the aging adult through the American Physical Therapy Association, and holds certifications in LSVT big, power moves, and rock steady boxing. Please welcome Joy.
Thank you, everyone. We are going to talk today about how to explore the outdoors, whether that be for you in nature or simply enjoying a community event. So I'm going to start with posing a question. Since being diagnosed with Parkinson's, how many of you have increased your activity levels and intensity based on exercise recommendations from people that you've learned? Yes! I love it. That is awesome. All right, now how many of you, on the other hand, have stopped participating in some of the activities that you used to love because you're not sure if you can do it anymore? Maybe that's golfing, maybe that's biking, hiking, or kayaking. Raise your hand, don't be embarrassed. That's what we're gonna talk about today. And why is that? Unfortunately, as a physical therapist, people come to me and overwhelmingly tell me that they just assume they can't do that anymore, or they're being told by people that they don't think they can do that anymore. So today we're gonna learn how to break through that barrier. So I want everybody to close their eyes, and I want you to think about one activity you would really like to accomplish outdoors. That could be walking with your grandkids in the park. That could be kayaking. It could be hiking. Anything that you want. I want you to picture yourself doing this with ease. You have big, smooth, fluid movements. You can smell what's in and around you. Maybe there's flowers, the fresh air. I want you to hear what's going on. Are there birds chirping? I want it to be a vivid picture. I can see some eyes looking at me. All right, now I want you to open your eyes and write that down. I want you to remember that, okay? Because we are going to solve the problem of how to accomplish that through principles of neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is rewiring that brain to get new neural connections. So one of the first principles is salience. So meaningful activities. Check, you've already started, right? You just told me what exercises you wanted to be doing. The next thing that we need to think about is use it or lose it, right? That lack of dopamine production means that all of our movements are either getting smaller or are absent. So we have to force the use. So let's think of it as use it to improve it, right? And I'm going to argue that you've already started that step as well, because visualization is a piece of the pie. Your brain does not know the difference between thinking an activity and doing an activity. The research shows that. So if you can vividly sit down and think about and visualize what you want to be doing, in addition to actually getting out and move, that is going to help you. Thirdly, we're going to talk about practicing specific skills with lots of good quality repetitions, right? It makes sense. When we learn anything, we need to practice. Think back to when you learned how to walk in the very, very beginning. It took a lot of repetitions and a lot of time, a lot of failure to fall down and get back up. And lastly, we're going to talk about intensity. And intensity matters, right? We have to challenge ourselves. We're going to go out and do the steps that we need to do, whether that be by ourselves, whether that be you have a coach, maybe you have a physical therapist that is going to help you. But you need to continue to challenge yourself in order to get better. You're going to think of that professional athlete. Do you think that when he got accepted to either the professional baseball team or whatever team that he's involved in, a professional basketball player, that they just stop practicing? No, they're always challenging themselves to be better. And I think this is where we sometimes really get caught up. People stop and say, I can't do things or relearn things the same way that I did them before. So maybe we need to think about adding some additional tools to our toolbox in order to help us. One way is the activator poles, right? So these are going to be able to help us. There are key specific symptoms for people with Parkinson's that these have been research-based and are known to help, right? As soon as I stand up here, I push into the ledge, what happens? I stand up tall, right? That postural instability of leaning forward, I get rid of it. When I'm walking, it forces me to swing my arms and move my trunk. That gets rid of some of that rigidity. Sorry, can't move, but so the other thing is that it normalizes gait patterns. When I get stood up and I'm nice and tall, it allows me to take bigger steps so that we are getting those bigger movements that are needed to be able to walk without falling over in regards to tripping over our feet or shuffling or doing those kind of things. It doesn't have to be the activator poles. I so often hear people come to me and say, I can't bike anymore. I'm like, well, why not? Because I don't have the balance. So then let's look at it differently. Let's try a trike, right? You're still getting out in nature. You're still getting the exercise that you need. And biking, pedaling is really big for people with Parkinson's. The evidence is out there for it. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to get out there and get active. You need to enjoy yourself. And if you don't think that you can, then get somebody else involved, whether it be me or anybody else on this panel, your physical therapist, somebody that has specific training with Parkinson's. They're going to be able to help you problem solve to be able to do the things that you want to be doing. So I challenge you to choose to get active and accomplish that goal that you wrote down or that you thought about at the beginning of this. Thank you.
I have to say I love the poles. I actually bought some from Joy today. She is selling them if you're interested in them. The thing I loved about them is that ledge that she's talking about holds kind of the base of your hand as opposed to just gripping the poles. And I have rheumatoid arthritis, and as you probably know, I'm going on a very long hike. So I'm going to definitely test those out and see if they're just more comfortable for me and have that as an alternative. So yeah. So our next speaker is Erica Vitek. Erica graduated with her master's degree in occupational therapy from Concordia University in 2002. She works at Aurora Healthcare at Aurora Sinai Medical Center in downtown Milwaukee. Erica has attended extensive postgraduate rehab education in the area of Parkinson's disease and exercise. She's a certified Lee Silverman voice treatment BIG therapist and is the team leader of the LSVT Big and Loud Clinic program at the medical center. She co-instructs the LSVT Big and Loud Skills class, which is a community-based exercise class for people who have already graduated and need that little bit of reinforcement with the program. Erica is also a global faculty member. She's a international trainer for LSVT. She has helped with educational opportunities for people with exercise and clinicians to further their clinical skills in treating people with Parkinson's disease. Please welcome Erica Vitek.
Hi, everyone. Welcome today. This has been a really, really great day, and thank you for having me be able to provide some information about LSVT today. And so who in the room has taken LSVT Big and LSVT Loud? Okay, quite a number of you guys. Great. So LSVT stands for Lee Silverman Voice Training, or Voice Treatment. And the reason it's named that is because the first patient with Parkinson's, Lee Silverman, who was in Arizona, her family couldn't hear, understand her, and communicate with her well. And they donated money for research in the 1980s for researching really neuroplasticity-based principle therapy that Joy mentioned, and trying to figure out, what's really the formula to help really retrain the vocal ability, and then it moved into movement ability over time in someone with Parkinson's disease. And so they originally just called it LSVT. It was a voice training program. And then when they determined that, if we can do this with voice and really retrain voice to be louder, more understandable, why couldn't we do this with the limb motor system as well? So the arms, the legs, with walking, with posture. And so then they changed it to be LSVT Loud for the voice training and LSVT Big for the big training. And so your speech therapist provides you with the LSVT Loud, and your OT, or occupational therapist, or your PT, your physical therapist, provides you with LSVT Big. So the idea behind the program is it has 30 years of history of NIH-funded research behind the program. It follows the neuroplasticity principles that Joy mentioned. So salience, we look at things that are important to you. It's a protocol, but yet individualized to your functional goals and what you're interested in. So how the program works is it's 4 times per week for 4 weeks. Now that sounds scary at initial presentation, but there's a reason for it. It is that intensity level, the use it or lose it that Joy talked about. The high level of intensity, the high level of repetition of a set of exercises that were specifically designed for people with Parkinson's to address the symptoms. You follow that with links to different things that you're interested in improving on. So we do these high amplitude or big movements or vocalizations in loud. We carry that over to functional things that you want to do better, including walking or getting dressed, washing your hair, standing on one leg to put your pants on, getting in and out of the tub. So things that are important to you day to day that you want to improve on. And we apply amplitude or size of movement and effort to your ability, which then comes out as more normal size movement or normal volume of voice. You can be more well understood and you can move bigger and better. So the idea of the 4 times a week for 4 weeks, it's a one-on-one treatment. And the whole program revolves around this amplitude, and we all use amplitude in our treatment to then carry that over to your day-to-day. So in order to get that to carry over to your day-to-day, the idea is something called calibration. So what happens is during the treatment, we are driving that size of amplitude, and you can fix that with a cue, right? So we say big walking, or I've helped a few people today, kind of kick those feet out, really take those big steps. So you can perform the bigness, or you can speak louder briefly, but it maybe doesn't stick or hold, right? You can get the cue, but it doesn't hold. And we haven't calibrated the system yet, meaning you get on a scale and it says you're 50 pounds, but you're really 150. That scale is not calibrated. So during one-on-one therapy with your big therapist or your loud therapist, we're working on getting you calibrated. The area of the brain that's affected in Parkinson's is our autopilot. So the basal ganglia is so we can automatically move bigger and speak louder. And so we're recalibrating the basal ganglia to more normally or naturally or automatically move with big movements and speak with a loud voice. So it's all about getting that autopilot back in order and really retraining that. And that's why it takes so many repetitions and that high intensity of 4 times a week for 4 weeks. So thank you so much, and I hope that you'll exercise with me in a little bit. We're going to have a little sample of LSVT Big in the hallway if you choose to exercise with me. So thank you so much.
LSVT Big and Loud are something that we prescribe as providers, so if it is something that you're interested in, I really would encourage you to ask your provider to write a script for that. Our next speaker is Connie Udell. Connie is the owner of Soul Fitness and personal training since 2009. Her mother had Parkinson's and encouraged her to take Parkinson's wellness recovery training in 2010. Since then, she's also progressed to Rocksteady boxing classes in 2 locations and a body and motion class for those with PD. In January, she took a role as facilitator of the Rock County, Northern Illinois area Parkinson support group that meets in Janesville as well. So please welcome Connie.
So these are not my reading glasses. These are my X-ray vision glasses. Okay? That was such a good introduction. I can take off a paragraph off of my talk right now. So our staff, with research and personal experience from training and knowledge and experience from the military and martial arts and law enforcement, has just recently published a book called Safer Fall. The possibility is real. And so we're going to talk about this book today, and we have a group in the back, Doug and Tim. Doug is the author of this book, by the way. Douglas Anderson wrote this book. On your table, some of you have some little coupons in case you're interested in ordering the book. It's a really nice big book with big photos and big letters in case you have to read it. So the reason behind the book is obviously we know that people with Parkinson's is not if they fall, but when they fall. So we wanted to write a book that's going to help you safely or more safely fall. And one of the most important things about this book is something that the 2 before me have already mentioned, is repetition and practice. Repetition and practice. So the objective of the book is different from the occupational therapy purpose of reducing the possibility of fall, such as removing your rugs or trip hazards, but rather the working both physically and mentally to come through a fall safer. So how do we do that? There are basic concepts that we want you to know about with a fall. And I see they're already starting their demos back here. The things that you want to think about if you're going to fall is protecting the head. Protect other parts of the body that are susceptible to more severe injury. Hand placement. Arms bent, chin tucked, looking away from the impact. Second concept is don't stop and don't fight the fall. Extend the time of contact and area of contact during the fall, letting the larger muscle groups of your body absorb the big impact. So what we're doing here is, if you look at the floor here, we have worked on forward falls, sideways falls, backward falls. So what they're looking at here is he's practicing over a resistance ball. So the right hand is going to help him through the roll, down below the shoulder, turning his head to the left, protecting his head. So he's going through this. So he's not just coming down on the floor and slamming on the floor like a board. What he's doing is rolling with the impact. Now this is Jen. Jen's working on a different type of fall. So she's going to come over. She's doing a forward fall. She did, by the way, she just learned this about 15 minutes ago, so she's doing really good with this one. So again, what we want you to understand is, how can you have a safer fall? By understanding the theory behind falling and practicing the techniques. Which one are we going to do here now? Okay, so they're working on backward falls. So when you're looking at a backward fall, when you're coming backwards, what's the most important thing we want to protect? It's our head. So when you're coming backward, you want to bring the chin to the chest, tuck it in, bring these arms out to the side, and slap your arms down. So you're spreading the distance and spreading your body parts out. You notice that nobody is coming into a rest. Look at that slap. So he's got a good slap going there for a reverse fall. One of the other things that we talk about in the book is if you want to practice these falls, you can use your bed at home. Just practice these backwards falls. Come to the side of your bed, bring your hands back, tuck your chin to your chest, come back on the bed so you get the feel for that. Jen is practicing the same thing. Now notice that she's also rolling onto the back. She's coming back into her hip area, the largest part of her body, and still continuing with that roll. And we practice this actually with our boxing people in Janesville, Beloit. One of the other areas that we cover in this book is assisting from a chair. I don't know if they're ready to get to that yet or not. Oh, there we go. Okay. So when you're looking at assisting somebody, whether it's from a chair, if they can't get up, or whether they're on the floor and they have trouble getting back up, is you don't want to pull them through the arms and the shoulders. He's got a grip. Notice how his hands is gripped around Tim's hands here. He's going to grip these hands. He's going to come close to the body. Tim's going to cross his chest there. And on a count of 3, they're going to work on this and come up together. Now, when somebody comes up after a fall or getting out of a chair, they may feel a little bit shaky. So what Doug can do also is he can turn around and come behind Tim. And the grip he's going to use is he's going to come close behind him, come underneath the armpits, still grab that hand close to the body, make him feel comfortable, make him feel secure, let him get his bearings going before he releases him. Now, if Tim is a little bit tipsy and maybe comes forward, Doug not only is holding his hands, but he's also holding under the armpits. So in case the hands come out, Doug still has that hold underneath. Now, Doug, as you can tell, is a big guy. So I'm obviously not as big as Doug is, but I can tell you that I use these same techniques with my boxers, whether they're my size or bigger in the class, and it works very well. And there are some times where they fall, and they will ask me personally to come over and help them get up. So what I do is walk on over there, securely hold them. So now Jen, not as big as Tim, she can do the same thing. She's got herself positioned, she's got good balance there. She can lift him up, and then he's supported. Also in the book, we talk about what if you have somebody and you're not sure if you can get them up alone and there's somebody else there that can help you. We demonstrate how can you do 2-person pickups. Good, okay. So just a little demo of what we want you to be aware of. And again, when you're looking at the book and what we present in the book, a lot of photos, a lot of big writing, and those are accessible now on Amazon and also lulu.com, and hopefully we'll have WPA give you the information as well if you're interested in possibly purchasing the book, or if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask us about it afterwards, and they'll still be doing demos afterwards for you to watch as well. So thank you for your time, and practice and repetition. A safer fall is possible.
our next speaker is going to be Lisa, and I don't have my notes. They must have disappeared, so I don't have your whole bio. So Lisa's going to introduce herself. I'm so sorry. I'd love to say I have them all memorized, but that's really not the case. So Lisa is a fully certified teaching artist with the Dance for PD program. She began dancing at the age of 3 and has never stopped. She was a founding member of the Wisconsin Ballet Theater and taught dance for a number of years. It was clear that her purpose in life was to share her gift of dance with others. She was designed to deliver joy in a way that is impactful and empowering. In 2018, she founded Empowerment Dance to serve individuals with Parkinson's disease and other movement concerns. She teaches classes in Green Bay, Appleton, and New Berlin. Please welcome Lisa.
Thanks, Stacy. All right, so yeah, dance. It's an interesting and marvelous topic. So how many of you are familiar with the Dance for PD program? Maybe 5%, right? The program's actually been around for about 20 years, believe it or not, and I actually am in a room with 2 other Dance for PD instructors, so we are here, we are available. So I like to ask this question. I'm gonna throw this out at you. Feel free to respond. It's a simple question. What is dance? Jim. Anything you want it to be. Exactly right. Dance is simply moving to music. And if you're moving to music, typically you're going to find an emotion that surfaces, which is typically what? When you're dancing, you feel happy. You feel joyful. You feel So if you were here this morning, Sarah spoke a little bit about emotions and how emotions are a big part of who we are as humans. And dance is one of those tools where it allows us to feel emotion through music, through movement, and it comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes and forms. And when we're in a dance class together, you may be introduced to tap dancing, to like a Fred Astaire number. We might do some Swan Lake ballet dancing. Am I freaking anybody out right now? Yeah. How many of you are like, no way, not me, no how, no dancing, right? And that's okay, that's normal, because you've got all these wonderful things to choose from. But I'm here hopefully to break the stigma about what dance is all about. Dance should be an environment where you feel welcome, you feel comfortable, you feel that you have the ability to move in a way that is uniquely different than a typical exercise class. So when we think about dancing, we talk about the emotion side of it. Songs trigger emotion. Would you agree with that? Holidays, when we get together for campfires, when we're celebrating the 4th of July, everything that we do is tied around music. Celebrations for birthdays, happy birthday. You don't like happy birthday to, right? When you sing, you feel joy, okay? So that's another thing that we try to include in our classes is not only movement, but we try to incorporate as well voice activation. Another piece that makes maybe dance a little bit different is the creativity side of things. I actively work to get my students involved in helping me plan movement ideas. So I come to an idea, or I come to a class with an idea in mind, but then I might throw out a question. All right, we're doing March Madness this week. Our theme is basketball. When you look out into a basketball game and you're a spectator, what do you see? And we have these conversations, and before you know it, we're like, we're dribbling a basketball, but we make it maybe look a little bit more like dance because we're tying it to music. Here's another thing that's a great tool for anybody anytime, any moment. So freezing and gait is obviously a concern for most of us living with Parkinson's disease, and there are a number of tactics that you can approach when you find yourself in a freezing gait. One of them that we've found very successful is finding rhythm. You may have a favorite tune or a favorite song, and you can choose to sing that out loud, right? Maybe you have this song that everyone knows about, your care partner, your significant other. They're like, all right, let's bust it out. Oh, when the saints go marching in, right? Whatever that song is, you start to redirect your attention from your feet to your brain. And you take the worry about what's happening down here, because when you're festering and you're worried about your feet, right, all of your attention ends in your feet, and then you end up doing this, right? Because all your focus is down there. So redirect that up into your brain by finding that tune, that song, that's something that you can relate to that makes you, one, feel joyful, and then two, gives you that rhythm. Any rhythm you want. You start counting together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start to move that rhythm together, okay? Does that make sense? It's a really simple tool. Count, hum, find your song, anything that works in that arena. So, we're gonna move. You knew this was coming. We're gonna move a little bit. We're gonna practice rhythm, okay? I hear often, oh my gosh, Lisa, I can't take your class, I don't have rhythm. No, you were born with rhythm. Your heartbeat has rhythm. It's in you. We just tend to lose it when we get older. We don't practice it on a regular basis. So, we can all count to 4. Agreed? Good. I was a little nervous. Dancers count to 8 because it's a nice rhythmic pattern. It goes along with music. So, but we're only going to count to 4 today. So, I want to count to 4, and I want you to march your feet to my rhythm. Make sense? All right, I'm not even going to move my feet because I want you to listen to my voice, and I want your feet to do the work. So here we go. Are you comfortable? First, are you comfortable? Your feet are flat on the floor, underneath your knees. You've shifted away from the table legs that are underneath you. Make those adjustments now. Go ahead, get comfy. Cool. Okay, we're good. All right, here we go. Because in a dancer form, we usually go 5, 6, 7, 8. Because it sets the tempo, right? It says the rhythmic pattern that we're going to be using together, and then also cues us that we're like, all right, after count 8, we're going to start together. So if I just said go, what would happen? You'd be like all over the room, right? Okay? So here we go. 5, 6, 7, march your feet. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now one clap, you got it, for every 4 marches. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now, hold on, listen up, keep going. You're gonna do 2 claps for every 4 steps. Ready? Try it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now 4 claps. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 claps. One clap for every 4. Now tell me you don't have rhythm. That was awesome. So what I tried to demonstrate to you is that yes, you do have rhythm, and you may or may not have found it a little bit cognitively challenging, because you can do the things that we were doing, but trying to layer them in, that's another really massively powerful tool for you when you're living with Parkinson's, or you're aging, or you're old, or you're young. Doesn't really matter. Cognitive training, and you may have hopefully heard a little bit about that through some of your breakout sessions today as well, is that when you can layer in physical activity in a meaningful way that draws attention to your brain, what I find most often when people take a class for the first time, they're not frustrated because they can do things physically. The frustration sometimes lies when they start to cognitively challenge themselves. And we talked about neuroplasticity today. That's a little bit of what dance will do. You can train your brain at any age. I teach dance to people who are over 100 years old. They're doing these things. So it's just like a push-up, but it's training for your brain. So you can work both of those things in a dance class. So when you layer in music with movement that's tied specifically to the music, and I'm asking you to remember a sequence of movements, when you combine all of those things, and then, oh, by the way, that song makes me feel a certain way, all of those things layered in are what makes dance so special and what makes you feel so joyful. And every week is hopefully something a little bit new. So we work on ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, modern, hoedowns, salsa. Cinco de Mayo's coming up, so we're going to be doing some salsa dancing, hoedowns, you name it. We try to keep it fresh and interesting. So the movements that you do hopefully can relate back to your functional daily lives, right? Something like this. Do you know what that is? That's the cookie that I hid on my husband. Right? You start to forget about how you move through your daily lives, and you just, all of a sudden you're adapting to like, oh, I can't move like that anymore, so I'm just going to do it this way instead and get a step stool to grab that cookie, right? So it's this cognitive constant training, not only for your brain, but for your body, to feel breath through your body and through your arms and through your legs, and then most importantly through your smile and then through your heart. So if all those things can make you feel good and powerful and empowered, yay, right? So if dance is your thing, if you've never tried it, just give it a whirl, right? You've got Kate, who teaches out of Fond du Lac. Suzanne Carter is here somewhere. She teaches out of Milwaukee on Zoom. We're around. So it's just, again, we've heard this idea of tools, right? Find something that you love to do. You will be more apt to stick with it. You're more apt to find those improvements in your body, both physically and mentally. So that's it. I'm getting the red card in the back. So that's what we do, empowered by movement through the Dance for PD organization. Thanks for your time.
Our final speaker is Patrick Barron. Patrick is an outpatient physical therapist in New Berlin with the specialty services for people with Parkinson's disease. He created a wellness center called NeuroPath Wellness, offering multiple programs and exercise classes specifically to target people with individuals with Parkinson's disease. Patrick, please join us.
Thank you. Well, I'm the very last speaker on a very long but productive day that just happened to include breakfast, lunch, desserts, and about 30 tables with Kit Kats and Snickers. So thank you, Lisa, for kind of keeping people moving. But the whole point that I want to talk about is just making sure that the activities that you're selecting are actually doing what the purpose is. And the title of the panel is Movement is Medicine. And has anybody experienced that? They feel that movement actually can be therapeutic and treat their Parkinson's, yes? So you can have good medicine and bad medicine and something in between. What I really want to discuss is how you can get the most out of that medicine. And of course, you can pick any activity, and any activity that is right for you is the best activity. How do you now make it something that's actually going to help you prevent the progression of Parkinson's? And that's really one of the things that we're trying to do with this medicine, right? Is everybody may have a concern that there's something about your movement that could get worse because of Parkinson's. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you might be able to do to disrupt that process. So just a little bit about my history. I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years, and I opened my clinic 4 years ago, and I started rock steady boxing at the same time. So being a physical therapist for almost 20 years at the time, I worked with people with Parkinson's my entire career. But not until I started doing rock-steady boxing did I really learn how you can disrupt the process of the progression of the disease. And really what it is Parkinson's, you could consider it to be a disease that is opportunistic, meaning that it's going to follow a certain progression that's different for every person, but you may not have a very good understanding of how it could select how it would progress. And so we'll just talk very briefly about the different symptoms that are pertinent to movement for medicine, and those are the motor symptoms. So being able to move freely and actively and without any limitation. And so you may have heard the symptom of rigidity, the stiffness. That's one of the main ones that you may limit you from moving. And then there's also going to be the slowness of movement, where you just can't generate that quick step or quick turn. And then, of course, there's balance. And if anybody has experienced any of those symptoms, you know that there can be fear involved with that. Not only that it can affect you immediately, but those things could get worse. And what does life look like if any of those symptoms get worse? So how could you interrupt that process of progression of Parkinson's disease using movement? Really what you can do is you can take any activity that you're doing and try to understand that the person who created that style of exercise, whether it be dance or LSVT or rock-steady boxing, the people who created those programs had a deep understanding of how Parkinson's is going to affect the way that you move. And they're going to guide you through movement in a way that is actually going to help slow the progression of those movement-based symptoms. But as a person with Parkinson's, you may not know what part of you needs to do the most movement. So if your issue is mainly stiffness, and this is what I mean by it's a disease that progresses based on opportunity, if before you ever had any Parkinson's symptoms, you had stiffness in your spine, that is somewhere that the Parkinson's is going to want to progress, and it's going to want to cause you to get more and more stiff. So now you go and you enter into an exercise that is absolutely going to reduce the stiffness. What's essential is that you're getting to the heart of that underlying problem that was there before Parkinson's. So if your stiffness is here, but the movement is trying to get you to open that up, but when you do it, you're not actually moving through that center part that's stiff. It is a good movement. It's going to wiggle the joints that are stiff a little bit, but you might not be getting the most out of it. So the person who's instructing you in the activity, they're trying to guide you. They're giving you cues to make sure you're really getting through that stiff part of your spine or whatever it is, hips, shoulders, neck, whatever it is. And you know how difficult that is to do. So the thing that you want to work on is moving in a dynamic way and know where your limitation is, listening to those instructors. And then once that instruction is done, you want to take that with you. So when they're cueing you to get big and move more dynamically, you should automatically assume if it's hard for you to do that, you're moving in a way outside of that activity that's causing it to continue to get more stiff. And so you want to take that with you outside of that class setting and try to do it throughout your movement. How about slowness? So if anybody has an issue with initiating speed, so trying to get your body to move quicker, getting up out of a chair, turning, even being able to walk with your arms swinging. Something happens while you're walking where it takes a lot of effort to get your trunk to rotate, partly because of the stiffness, but also because the brain has to send a signal for the whole body to rotate as you walk. And that takes a lot of effort, conscious, subconscious, and it's much easier just to have your feet carry you forward. But if all you do is allow your body, your momentum to carry you forward, and you don't break through the stiffness and actually move quickly with your trunk, what's going to happen is you're going to learn how to move with even more slowness. So if you have the issue where you walk and you start to speed up, that's actually a symptom of slowness, not speed. Because as your body falls forward, you start falling forward quicker, but you have less movement from the rest of you. Everything else gets rigid and stiff. So when you're doing your exercise class, or you're working with your physical therapist, OT, personal trainer, whatever it may be, and they're trying to get your movements more quick and dynamic, but then you go and you try to do the exercise on your own, and it looks a little bit more like this, where it's a little bit more intentional and thought out with not really fast and dynamic, you're not getting to that part of where your Parkinson's could progress. So within the class setting, within the exercise setting, you want to take those cues and really move. So in boxing, it's easy because we're hitting something. And if you don't move quick, you're not really hitting it. You're just kind of doing some love taps. But when you get your body to really move, it's generating a quick speed that is actually training your brain through neuroplasticity to move quicker. And by doing those things, it's less likely that the disease can progress towards that symptom. And then there's also balance. And a lot of people struggle with balance. And when you have more stiffness and more slowness, you're also going to have more problems with balance. The tendency then becomes not wanting to fall. And so if your approach is to be careful and cautious and try not to fall, it's not only going to increase your stiffness and your slowness, but it's actually going to increase the risk for your falling. So you absolutely want to participate in those activities that challenge your balance more than you're comfortable. And if you know you have a balance problem, and when you're doing your class activity, but you don't feel it's challenging your balance, you might not be actually helping prevent the progression of your balance problems. It's good, but it can be better if you work with that person who's guiding you to make sure that you feel off balance, and to make sure that your brain constantly has to adjust, and you're choosing activities that you can't predict, and that when you go to do them, you have to do it on the fly as a reaction. Doing things in that way is going to help make sure that you're not allowing Parkinson's to progress in the way it wants to progress in you. You can't necessarily stop the overall process, but working with the clients that I've worked with, I've absolutely seen the ability to slow down the progression by being able to predict where it may progress in you as an individual. So whatever class activity you're doing, whatever exercise program you have at home, whoever you're working with, they're really, and it also your care partner. Your care partner is giving you these loving cues, the nudges to stand up and to swing your arms and move. You know, when you hear those things, recognize that somebody is helping to identify a way of movement that's actually going to make your Parkinson's worse if you don't listen to it. So take those cues kind of lovingly and try to internalize them. Use whatever method you need to give yourself feedback to make sure that you're making those movements such that you're going to not have that issue of stiffness, slowness, and balance problems progressing and getting worse. So we offer a lot of programs right here in New Berlin. We do rock steady boxing, we do personal training, we do physical therapy, we have a support group. We also are working on talk therapy support group. So any questions that you have, hopefully we can catch up with you later. So thank you.
I'm looking for a good exercise for improving my balance. What would that be?
All of the above. No. Really, it really is. All of them have balance, qualities to them, whether it's dance, it's boxing, the LSVT big, the polling. You're working obviously with distribution of weight. I feel that when I talk to my patients, with medications, when you're at the right dopamine level, you eliminate some of that rigidity, that stiffness. After that, balance is about exercise. I can't get to that with a pill. You have to do it. It has to be that there's movement. If anybody wants to hit on that any more than that, no? Yeah, movement is key. Balance is something that, as a clinician, I don't feel like I can get to with medications. It is any of these programs, and they've all had great results. We wouldn't even be talking about them if they didn't have great results. That's why I said it's the one you'll do. Right, the one that kind of rang a bell for you and hit home with you on which one you would like to pursue, that's the right one to kind of look into. If you find that that's not the right one, then you try a different one. But they all definitely help balance. And we're going to hear a word from our lovely Kelly.
Thank you to all of you. I continue to be inspired and in awe of, one, all of you. Thank you for staying. I know this is a really long day. We're all feeling it, I think, at this point, perhaps. How many are feeling it? Long day? Ooh, I am a little bit. But I'm really grateful for everybody who spent the whole day here. I'm in awe of the knowledge and the expertise that we have here in the room, so thank you for sharing that with all of us. And so really, just thank you to all of you for spending the time with us today. I hope that you found value in what we brought to you today. The knowledge and the resources, we really, we put a lot of thought into the planning of this, and we want to continue with statewide expansion as WPA, bringing more resources and support across the communities. And so taking with you what we provided today and then implementing it into your daily lives is really not just, okay, we came to the symposium and then leave it here. That is not what it's about. I hope that's what you heard today. So hopefully it was well worth your time. Thank you for being with us today.